you might not realize this, but those filters that they were showing me yesterday, like Rabbi Fiskus was showing me, I thought that it was a cup. Apparently, it is not a cup. Apparently, it is a cone that goes into a cup-looking thing that has a handle, and that's why I thought it was a cup. However, it's not really a cup. Oh, thank you, Rabbi Slansky. Bidiyuk. I did not realize this. When you guys were showing me the pictures, you did not show me that you put her on top of him. I did not realize that she is a cup, that she is not a cup, and that the way you do it is you put it in there. So that's why I kept saying, Rabbi Isai, that I kept saying it's a filter. I kept saying it's not a tefach, and that's of course not right. In other words, this cone goes into that cup-looking thing, and the cup-looking thing, the filter, whatever you call this fellow, goes onto a cup. So of course you have to be careful that the cup shouldn't have a tefach. If the cup is going to have a tefach, so then you're going to have to do it the way we explained. That you'll have to take this top cup, hold it in the air, and put the bottom cup underneath. Otherwise, you will have an issue of oil, which in Mitzvah Hashem we will learn about. Is that crystal clear, Rabbi Isai? I just want to make it, it wasn't such a major shiloh because the Maisa, when it comes to oil, there are other kulas, so it wasn't the worst thing. Is that crystal clear, Rabbi Isai? I made a mistake. Fiskus, is that the one you were showing me yesterday? Okay, you forgot to show me the cup underneath, Rabbi Fiskus. Kanira, not everybody knows this, Rabbi Fiskus. I'm not I drink cold coffee, cold intense coffee. You can't expect that I would know such. Rabbi Shustafel, could you take care of this Muncie problem over here? Thank you. That's number one. Number two is, Rabbi Isai. Number two is that once I, got coffee dick a little bit yesterday, I want you to notice something, which I think is probably a very common thing. I imagine when you take that filter, it's probably a very common thing when you pick up the cup, probably a very common thing, especially if you're a Jew, but it's probably a very common thing that after you pick up that filter, let's say this would be the filter, right? It would be a very common thing to probably go like this with those last bits that are in there. Is that a common thing, Rabbi Slansky? Do you agree that that's a very common thing to do? Rabbi Slansky is certainly a Jew, and it's a very common thing to go like this. Rabbi said that's an Issa D'Oraisa. You got to be careful to not do your regular mahalach of what you're doing during the week. That's Boyer Deraisa. A person could do that without thinking. You have that filter and you have that last drops that you want to chaperine in those last drops, and you'll go like this without even thinking. I think so. No? What do you think? Rabbi Levin, Rabbi Danzig, do you agree with me that that's a normal thing to do? So even if we're makel, to pour on it, but then after you just take it and go like that and get rid of it, like we explained yesterday with the tea bag. That's number two. Number three is, Rabbi say, is that you have to be careful. Some people, they're really, really Jewish. And what they're going to do is they're going to take that top piece and then they it's not enough for them. So they're going to go and, now they're going to make the next coffee with her. So they'll take it off, that top piece, and they'll put it onto the next cup and they'll pour water through the next cup. Now, in essence, there's not a problem to do that. The problem is that, of course, it's a problem because when you take the cup, the top piece, what's the top piece called? Right, Slansky, do you have a name for me for this top piece? Right, the filter. When you take the top piece, the filter piece, and you place it onto a cup, that was Mefersh in Shulchan Aruch. You're not allowed to do that because the first drops that you're going to have that go onto the cup, of course, those first drops are a problem because now you have the drops coming straight from the coffee granules, and you do not have what we spoke about yesterday until afterward when you take the water and then you pour it on. But the first drops that you're going to have are certainly going to be a problem. Is that crystal clear, Rabbi said? Because it's not our sugya bar, but it certainly could be a mitchell. It's not clear, Rabbi Danziger, right? Did you wash Nagelwasser yet? You said Birchas HaTorah, right? All right, but watch, good boy, watch. Yeah, I have this, this is that filter. Let's pretend this thing looks like the filter, okay? So you have this thing over here. Now, again, to go like this and put it on this, we have a problem with oil. So what do you have to do? You have to hold her in the air and then bring it over like this. Now I have the granules and I can pour on top of it the hot water. We said it can't be mamish boiling hot, but it could be hot like we explained yesterday. And then as long as it's kli shlishi, like we explained, you're coming from a Iyar kli sheni or a kli shlishi or whatever, and it's not boiling hot. Now afterward, when I finished making my freshly brewed coffee, whatever you want to call this, now you must not go like this, which is probably a very common thing to do, because then that you would be shaking off and doing boirer without the description that we described yesterday of the water pouring through. Now afterward, you also cannot take this and then take a different cup and put it onto this cup, because now when you're going to drop it there, so then for a few moments before you take water, it's going to drip through from the filter. And that's of course an Isser Gomer. That's for sure an Isser. Until you start pouring the water on, that's an Isser Gomer. So what you'd have to do is, after you make your coffee the way we described, you pour on these dry granules. You put on dry granules like this. You pour water through not the boiling hot water, and then after you take this and you throw it out, or just place it over there. Is that crystal clear, Rabbi Danziger? Crystal clear? Are you just scared, or is it crystal clear? And you under the table, you were watching Nagelvaz. Good boy. Thank you. Akapanim. That's that. Because it stopped. Is that a question, Rabbi Lieberman? In other words, what's your question, Rabbi Lieberman? Can I move it when it's still dripping? Rabbi Fiskus is asking, can I move it when it's still dripping? It doesn't bother me if you're moving it while it's dripping, as long as you don't care. If you're just taking it and putting it over there, I don't care about it. What I will care about is when I pick it up and I hold it there, or if I shake it, right? That's what I care. The two ways, Rabbi Simcha, are very simple. One is that he's just taking it and just putting it on the side and getting rid of it. That does not bother me. If you're just taking it and putting it on the side, it doesn't bother me. If he's taking it and number one, shaking it up and down or holding it there to get out the last drips, of course that's asa. That's boyer deraisa. That's an isser. And a grossman would call that a boyer monster. That's of course an isser gomer. Or if he takes it and he puts it onto the next cup, that's of course an isser gomer, because now it's on the next cup, wet. We were talking about dry granules that you put onto a cup and then you pour through, and then it starts out water, ends off water, and that we said was mutter. But if you take this wet mixed granule mush and put it somewhere where it could drip through without pouring water first, even for 1 second, so then you cause something which everybody has a benefit in. When you take wet granules, that's exactly the first in Shulchan Aruch. The Shulchan Aruch says when you take sediment and you place this wet, whiny sediment and put it on top of a mishameres, that's an Isser Gomer on Shabbos to do. If the sediment was there on Erev Shabbos and you want to pour through it, because into hate, right? Or if you put dry sediment, like we explained, dry coffee beans, you want to pour through it, because into hate. If you take this wet sediment, this wet coffee granules, so then that is an Isser Gomer of Boirer. Is that crystal clear? Crystal clear. Is everybody clear? Yeah, and this is that could be a big michshel if not. Rabbi Levin put up both fingers. Crystal clear means both, right? Clear? Good boy. Okay. No, I got nervous because the three mamashets, it's 3 cases that we didn't speak out yesterday that could certainly be a mechshel. Anybody who listens to yesterday's shir and doesn't listen to this shir is for sure going to make a mistake. And I'll prove it to you. Rabbi Greenhouse is saying it's not clear even after today's shir, right? So therefore, it's muchach that it could be a mechshel. Again, we spoke yesterday, Klape the Bishul Shaila. Derech Agav, I threw in from the Bishul Shaila, I threw in the Boyer Shaila. Klape the Boyer Shaila, if you only listened to yesterday's shir, you would have made a mistake. And you would have just taken this wet, mushy granules after you started out with dry granules. So then there's no Boyer. You take the dry granules and put them on a cup. No problem except for oil. We explained how you get out of oil. Now, you take this video, pick it up, Rabbi Greenhouse. Now, you take that, now here, act it out. Take off the red thing, pick it up a little bit in the air. Now shake it a little bit, right? Shake it over, you anti-Semite. Shake it, not like that. Shake it when it's above, like this, getting out the last drips. Rabbi Greenhouse, be a kike and get out the last drips. No, right? So you got out the last drips. That is an Isser Deraisa. It's a mitzvah to throw such a person off a cliff, Rabbi Isai, if you would do that on Shabbos. That is Boira Deraisa, according to all the cheetahs and all the poskim that ever should live. Okay. Next, Rabbi Greenhouse, take the cup, take up the thing, take the red thing. Now take her and put her onto the next cup. You can pretend nobody will know, right? Take her onto the next cup. Now, Braisai, that moment when he did that and put her onto the next cup. So now before he started pouring the water, already it's dripping through and you're getting a benefit of the wet sediment, I'll call it, and you're getting a benefit. That's an Isser Gomer, Rabbi Isai. Now, afterwards, you want to go and pour water because the Seder, but you already were over on the Isser Gomer. What should you do? Rabbi Greenhouse, show them. Just take it and just put it on the side. Pick it up, just take it off and put it on the side like that and not caring, Rabbi Fiskus. Is that crystal clear? No, this has nothing to do with Chashivas and drafts, Rabbi Ratchkin. We're not talking about Bishul. We're talking about Boyer right now. This is about Boyer right now. So of course the drops are important. Of course there's a mila, and every drop of coffee is a mila. This is the best part of waking up. Waking up. Al Kaplan, is that crystal clear, Rabbi Isai? Crystal clear? Rabbi Greenhouse, are you clear now or not? Otosai. And those last drops, Rabbi Slansky seems to say, are the strongest, right? Those are the strongest. Now, a tea bag is the same idea. A tea bag is basically the same idea. If you take the tea bag and drop it up like this, drip it off or hold it to get out those last drops, of course that's an Issachar. That's an Issachar. It's only when you're taking out the tea bag and just putting it away or whatever without caring. That I suggested is in Shulchan Aruch that's what you could be makel on. So again, it's very important to me, this Rabbi, because if you would have heard yesterday's shiur, you probably wouldn't, just without thinking, it's pashut them is what we're saying, but you just without thinking, you would just do that. It's a normal thing a person does during the week. He just gets those last strips. Is that not correct, Rabbi Spiro? You probably did it 6 times this morning already, right? It's just like a normal thing to just go like this and to let those last drops come through. Okay, that's number 1. Now we go back, Rabbi Sai. Now back to our show. Let's go back, Rabbi Sai. Today we have to get into a lot of examples, right? Let's get into a lot of examples. Rabbi Rosenberg, what are you asking? Would this be a problem to put the tea bag in a second cup? No, because there, if you're going straight into the second cup, then it won't be a problem. If you're going straight, I'm not getting involved in the bishul, obviously, but if you're going straight in, it's not a problem because it didn't get a chance for it to come out. And the taka have no benefit in it because underneath the liquid, it's not going to really be considered a bayra, right? Yeah, but the wet leaves go straight into the water and they mix together with the water. So that way would be less of a problem. But Akopanim, let's go weiter. Now, Baisai, let's get to some examples over here, Baisai. Listen to the words of the Aruch HaShulchan. Now, it's very interesting because when you read the Aruch HaShulchan, you think the Aruch HaShulchan was some major machmir when it came to the Inyanim Bishul, because we know the Aruch HaShulchan shita about tea and even coffee granules. The Aruch HaShulchan was quite, but the emes, when you start reading through the Aruch HaShulchan, you see the Aruch HaShulchan was very, very liberal. We'll see today, and a lot of Aruch HaShulchan said he was quite liberal in the parsha of Bishul and what's all the chumras that the Mishabura has. He doesn't seem to have any of these chumras. Very interesting. For example, Mishabura over here in Tivkat Memei, I'll read you Mishabura. He says, "The oisam shechaytchen abatzalim," those that cut up the onions and those mark, and they put it in the soup. The kaira is already a klisheni. Lo yasimu rak achas shalevte yatzalevis v'mark. Why? Because by lechem there's a kula makman shenever kvar. But vilachi, we're nizer. He says, when it comes to bread, we're machmir on bread because we say yesh bishul agrafia, and even there we're machmir in a klisheni. Kol shekain onions, certainly onions we're going to be machmir on. Shetzarek lizarek, we're not bucky. We don't know what's called soft and what's called hard, and therefore kol shekain that we take the bitzalim and we put in a tavshel, which is a davar gush, and we'll talk about in a moment a davar gush. Akapanim, the Shabur over here tells us, don't take onions, raw onions, and put them into your cholent on Shabbos. He's very nervous about this, unless it'll be a klishlishi or something like that. But certainly a klisheni, the Mishabura is nervous about. And this is the psak of the Mishabura. It's the psak of the Chayadam, and this is really the psak of the Taz. The Taz, and Tivkat and Katz, and Tivkat and Yadal, it says Mefurish that the onions, we'll see even maybe garlic, but I'll put onions, which is like a common thing. He says you should not put onions in a klisheni. No, in a klishlishi, we saw yesterday that basically you could put anything inside a klishlishi. Now, basically, listen to the words of the Aruch HaShulchan. Aruch HaShulchan has 2 Aruch HaShulchans, one's a Tivkat and Chafei, one's a Siv Memdalit. He says like this. He says, "Beklisheni mutar litein tavlin." In a klisheni, you're allowed to put in spices, even though it's yatzaledes. Why? Because klisheni doesn't cook. Klisheni is not mevashel. Klisheni is mavliya maflit, which I explained yesterday. That, of course, it's very, very normal, like we explained yesterday, to have something which is mavliya maflit, but not necessarily does that make it mevashel. In other words, it's easier to give off bliyas than it is to cook. And that, of course, was the premise of the Chazain Ish. So he says, so even though klisheni gives off bliyas, yesh oisrim, but by bishul, lekule alma leika beklisheni. Zeo. Says Aruch HaShulchan, klisheni is not mevashel. Even legabi mavliya and maflit, you should know in kofhei, we're mekel. Vilachein. What's the therefore? Says the Aruch HaShulchan, mutar litein tavlin, ubitzalim, ushumim, b'shabbos shachris. Now he does sound like, interesting, he sounds like, not that bitzalim and shumim are tavlinim. You could have understood that garlic and onions are also spices because they're really there to give a taste. He's saying, no, they're not spices, but it doesn't matter. You're allowed to put them in a klisheni. Then he says, "V'yesh mishemachmer bebitzalim." Some are machmer when it comes to onions. Why? Because anu royim shememamtekin mimrirusam. You see that lashon, anu royim, right? Like the Aruch HaShulchan said by tea. We see that the liquid comes out. So he says, just like you saw that the flavoring comes out. So here too, you see that they get affected by a klisheni and they're not as powerful. We know that when a person has a shaila about an onion, so we know the Rav is going to ask you, was the onion cooked already? When you cut that onion, was it cooked? So once it's cooked, it's not charif anymore. It's only when it's not cooked that it has that charifistic koyach. So he says, you see that when you put something even in a klisheni, you put an onion in a klisheni. Once you put an onion in a klisheni, it already takes away its charifis. So he says, and he quotes Taz. Listen to the words of Chumra Yiserahi. Reb Chaim, you hear this? This is a Chumra Yisera, says the Aruch HaShulchan. Chumra Yisera. What are you talking about? I'll tell you why it's no longer so bitter. I'll tell you why it's no longer so so sharp, because you put it into the gravy. So the gravy takes out the spicy and what shaykhs. Adarabba. It's not even true, it's the opposite. On a royim b'moisachol, that when you take onion and you put it into some type of a tavshel, into some type of a dish, you see, when does a person, when he wants to cook onions, how does he cook onions? He'll never just take onions and put them into like his plate, because it won't cook. If you want to cook onions, he says you put it in the height of when the pot is cooking. You're only gonna do it at the height of cooking. Why? Because Shma Mina, he's bringing a raya from the housewives. Shma Mina, shetzrichim harbe bishul. You see, it needs a lot. And then he brings a raya from Trumas. In Trumas, it's mevoyer that a butzel is kashel of laya. An onion is very hard to get blias. Ayin sham. Right? You see, it's much harder to accept blias than other things. Like if you could look in Trumas, I don't understand the raya, but I'll put him the bishul. How are you going to tell me that it's when it comes to bishul? If you're telling me it's harder to be baleya, is anybody in his right mind going to say that if something is hard to be baleya, it's going to be easy to cook? I told you yesterday that svara, and now you see the Aruch HaShulchan says it. That once something is not even baleya, it certainly doesn't cook. Right? Now you see the Aruch HaShulchan said that's far. Ein ze ela tema. Listen to this. He's willing to fight the whole world, the Aruch HaShulchan. He's fighting a Taz. He's fighting the Taz that's brought in the Be'er Hatem. He's fighting Chai Adam. He's fighting the Ben Ish Chai. He's fighting everybody, the Aruch HaShulchan. And he says you could take onions, but kosa. I don't know what this is, even some Russian word. B'Shabbos, Shagres, Beli, Shum, Pikpok. There's no Shaila. Even if it's a Davagosh. He says doesn't matter. Kol Shegain, if you put it into a teller is a klishlishi. The lace din, the lace dayan. Yeah, when he just called the Taz and the Mishnah Berurah and the Be'er Hatem and the Chai Adam, they're not a dayan bichlal. Listen to this. Most importantly, the ones that like onions inside their cholent, etzlam hu oinig Shabbos. V'amonea mizeh, moineg oinig Shabbos. The Cain is the minig pashit. No, it's interesting because a person, he reads these Aruch HaShulchans and he thinks, the Aruch HaShulchan had an agenda over here in Bishul. No agenda. Didn't have no agenda over here. I'll tell you a story with Rabbi Yankiv Kamenetsky, Zeichat Tzadik Devracha. So one of my cousins once said to Rabbi Yankiv Kamenetsky, asked him, Shaila, Yankiv was not so sure. So he said to him, look, even the Aruch HaShulchan is machmir. As if to say, the Aruch HaShulchan is already machmir. The Aruch HaShulchan is a doer, he's a guy to mekel. So he says, even the Aruch HaShulchan is said Rabbi Yankiv was so upset with him, he wouldn't talk to him for a week. The Aruch HaShulchan's a machmir, the Aruch HaShulchan's a mekel. The Aruch HaShulchan learned the sugya and it came out azay. The Aruch HaShulchan's a sugya and it came out azay. In the same sugya in Bishul, the Aruch HaShulchan has the chumras when it comes to tea and coffee. He's willing to throw you off a cliff. Three times off a cliff, 4 times off a cliff, the third course, the fourth course. Mashen came when it comes to this one over here, he tells you, what? You're not going to put your onions in your challenge. You're going to be maneh for Meinik Shabbos. What's wrong with you? He tells you can even put it in a cliche and he's not afraid of anything. He doesn't even have the chumrah of davar gush over here. Nothing. He's not willing to be machmir over here, this Aruch HaShulchan. No, what's halach l'maisa? That's just unbelievable over here, Rabbi say. When you see we'll see, we're going to use this in a minute, this Aruch HaShulchan. What's halach l'maisa? Could you make on this Aruch HaShulchan? Or vadana? How could you make on the Aruch HaShulchan? Rav Moshe Feinstein says that Tzadik L'Vracha has a tshuva in Ayin Dalet in Bishul Hoysit Ches, and he brings down bitzalim, onions. Mefurish Baruch HaShulchan in Sif Memdala that it's a tavlin. Shemuta b'kli sheni. Now, Derech Agav, I told you, if you read Baruch HaShulchan, it's not muchach that he's saying it is a tavlin. It is a tavlin. He's not saying that it is a tavlin, and even Ramosha doesn't say that. He says who kit tavlin. It's like a tavlin. They both agree it's not that an onion is a tavlin, but it has the din of a tavlin, says Derech HaShulchan. He says, but the Taz asers. So he says, listen to this Maisa. Listen to this. He says, this aval rayosai. What's the raya? What's that? What's the raya of the Taz that an onion is not considered something which is that an onion is a kale bishul? He says the raya is because anurayim, because we see shemamtim mirasam, and he says because we see that what it's no longer so sharp. Now you know Ramesh is not going to go for this because Ramesh said, "Don't tell me with bishul that when you see things, you know what you're seeing. You know what you're seeing when you see the tea change colors. So that's called bishul. What you see." You think you know what bishul is because you see something. He says, that's no raya, like Derech HaShulchan said. No shaykhs. He says, Derech HaShulchan said it's not a raya. Why? Murdik. Derech HaShulchan said it's not a raya because the gravy makes it not spicy. He says, but Lefi Masha Kasafti and Tesvav, Bichlal ain't raya mizeh. In other words, as if to say, you can't bring rayas from what you see. Derech HaShulchan was willing to bring a raya from what you see. Therefore, when it came to the Taz's raya, he said the Taz is wrong because that's not the reason you're seeing what you're seeing. You're seeing something else. It lost its Be'emes, the Taz would have been enough for the Derech HaShulchan. Just he's wrong. The reason it lost its sharp kite is not because of the bishul. It lost its sharp kite because of the gravy. Ramesh says it doesn't start. What you see doesn't convey in bishul because you see something changes colors, because you see something changes its taste, its sharpness, etc. Nothing to do with bishul. Bishul is what Chazal were conveyor when it changes the Yudea heat, it changes it in a different way, and we have no idea what that way is. Just like when you have oil, said the guy Rav Moshe Feinstein. Do you know why? If you take oil and you heat it up in a klisheni, it's not called bishul. What are you talking? Says Rav Moshe. Ach ulai. Says Rav Moshe, Ulai ain't bitzalim bichlal taflin. Now you see from this line in Rav Moshe that Rav Moshe learned not exactly like the Aruch HaShulchan was learning. He understood the Aruch HaShulchan was saying that an onion is a taflin. And when he argues on the Aruch HaShulchan, this is how he argues. He says, no. In other words, as if to say, if it would be a taflin, that's a Kabbalah from Chazal. And Chazal had bitzalim. And Chazal had Shuman. So now Rav Moshe is going to argue and say, it's not a tavlin. That's how Rav Moshe is going to go on to argue on Derech HaShulchan. It's interesting. It didn't sound like Derech HaShulchan was saying it is a tavlin. It sounded like from Derech HaShulchan that he was just bringing a raya from the etzim fact that you see it's a kasha bishul. He brought a raya from Truma. He brought a raya. Interesting. Derech HaShulchan was willing to bring a raya from housewives. Is this something that requires a lot of bishul? So the Derech HaShulchan says, yes, my housewife, when she wants to make cooked onions, she doesn't take it and put it on her plate because it won't cook it. She goes and puts it in the height of the bishul in order to get that result what she wants. Again, that won't work in Rav Moshe land. In Rav Moshe land, I'm not interested in what housewives do. I'm not interested in what you see. It's a Kabbalah, what is considered cooked or not. So the only way Rav Moshe she does a Kedan the Shaila is when Rav Moshe Kedan, is it a Tavlin? If it's a Tavlin, then we have a Kabbalah from Chazal. If it's not a Tavlin, we don't have a Kabbalah from Chazal. And so you have to be Machmir. Again, you see the Aruch HaShulchan wasn't working. It's all the Shitasim, Rabbi. I hope everyone understands what I'm saying. The Aruch HaShulchan is going with that in order for something to be bishul, you can ask a housewife, you could look at it, does it look differently, does it smell differently, does it taste differently, does it act differently? Rav Moshe, this doesn't exist in Rav Moshe world. The only thing that can go in Rav Moshe world is a Kabbalah from the Halachos of Chazal. If Chazal come and tell you that it's a tavlin, it's a tavlin. So now we have to figure out, is it a tavlin or not? That's why Rav Moshe said lemons. That's not a tavlin because Chazal didn't have it. So therefore, I have to be scared. When it comes to onions, says going Rav Moshe, Achulai ain't betzalim a tavlin. Sharei, you see, what's his raya? Listen to the guy in Rav Moshe. His raya is he has to bring a raya from Hilchos tavlin. Where are you going to go when you want to look for Hilchos tavlin? Obviously, you go to Maestris. In Maestris, we know that anything that's a tavlin is not chayiv in Meiser. You know, everybody has these shilas. You go on these Israeli tiyulim. You know what I'm talking about? Everybody say, you remember when you're in the Shiva days, you went on these tiyulim, the Shiva takes you on that like one tiyul and whatever, you know, so that they can make you feel like you're in a modern yeshiva or in a seminary, you know, and they take you on that tiyul and they hire some like, off the Derech Yeshiva Bacher or whatever, and he has a gun and whatever, and he walks around and he's going to protect you from snakes and beavers and all types of dragons and whatever. No, always in the middle of this tiyul, whoever remembers is going to smile. They start making tea. Let me know what I'm talking about. They go and they have this like little teapot. I see some smiles. Okay. Right. And they make tea. And where do they make tea? Because they come to some like bush and whatever. And this is mamish tea. And yeah, thank you, Rabbi Danziger. I see you weren't hanging out by Rabbi Tzvi Kaplan for that long. Okay. I could put them, they have over there this like, coffee and whatever, and they tell you this is mamish. This tea is the tea that Avram Avinu got the recipe from Terach and whatever. Got some mice, and they tell you all types of interesting, weird things and whatever. So there's always that from Bacher that calls Rabbi Kallus, and he says to Rabbi Kallus, he says to him, Rabbi Kallus, do I need to worry about like miceris? He's like cutting it off the ground, and he's like straight off the ground. He's cutting it, and it's attached to like he's worrying about miceris, right? There's more livestock and dead animals on that thing than chleis gewenlich and a fragment. He's making a tea with all types of dead creatures and there's a whole zoo in there. But anyways, he wants to know about miceris. He wants to know about miceris. So I tell him, miceris is a ganze shaila. Why is it a ganze shaila? Is tea a tavlin? That's our sugya. That's mamish our sugya. We know that mice. You all know that's Mishnayos. If you don't know Mishnayos, then you should be arrested. But that's Mishnayos. In the Mishnayos, it says that a tavlin is potter from a chiyuv maisris. There's no chiyuv maisris on tavlina. So now we have to figure out what's tea. Tea's a tavlin. So even it comes out ironic. It could be that in Hilchos Shabbos, it might not be a tavlin. Yeah, this mice. But when it comes to Hilchos Maisris, it might be called a tavlin. But the Moshe Feinstein Tzadik Livracha, he's bringing rayas from Maisris to what's called a tavlin, because we have kabbalas from the Halach of Chazal. Whatever's called tavlin, that you could cook. Do you understand? It says Moshe, I don't care. It's Exeris HaKosiv. Chazal had a Kabbalah and Moshe Missinai, Kabbalah and Moshe Feinstein Missinai. What's called Bishul and what's called not Bishul and Gamarnu. I don't need to understand it, says Rav Moshe. I said, besides, says Rav Moshe, if I see in Maisris that this is called a tavlin, and then he sends you Ayin Toisis Nida, Daf Nunum and Aleph, Dibra Maskal Koil, Derech Hagav, did anybody ayin in that Toisis? Mitzvah Shmuel Divrei Chachamim. You're supposed to, Rabbi Moshe told you to go and look into the Taisis, right? So Rabbi Moshe didn't have much faith that you're going to be Ma'ayin. Taisis and Nidan Dafnon about Maisris. What are you talking about? That's the stuff I skip in the yeshivas. What are you talking? So Rabbi Moshe told you what you need to know, and he tells you the Shechayiv. It says over there that Tibra Maskal Kol Shechayiv, the Shumna Batzalim. Excuse me. Kol Shechayev. Sorry, Kol Shechayev. That was the joke I was about to make. When you read the Moshe, you don't know how to read the Moshe. The Dibra Matzler, our boys say, I'll show you. This is fabulous, right? This is the mistake that anybody reading Rav Moshe who doesn't look in the Taisis. I'm sorry, this was the joke I was trying to make. Anybody who's going to read the Rav Moshe, not read the Tshuva, he's going to have mamash steer in Rav Moshe. Rav Moshe says over here that it's a tavlin, and once it's a tavlin, so we know that ein bitzalim b'chlal tavlin daha. We see that when it comes to bitzalim are chayiv in maisris. Bitzalim are chayiv in maisris. So you see that what? That's not a tavlin. Go and look in Taisis and Dibra Maskal, Kol Shechayiv, right? The Dibra Maskal is Kol Shechayiv. The Shumin of Bitzalim Unami Tavlin. Over there he says that it is a Tavlin. What's going on here? But then he says, wait a minute. But it's Roy L'chila B'Atzmai. Chayiv B'Meiser, but Avida Nami L'Tayla. So Rav Moshe says, is Lo Badar Barur. So I looked in this Taisis, and Taisis says over here like this. It says, Ishleimar, the Gabeis Mine Tavlin, the Noyu, the Ein Royan Elo L'Taima. There are those that are there just for taste. Those are not Matamitim Zaychlin, those are not Chayvin Maisa. Aval Tavlin, the Roy Nami Bifnei Atzmai, Vavida Nami L'Taima, Kegoin, Shumin B'Tzalim, Chayavin B'Maiser. I said, Desai, Goin Agadar Moshe is telling us that this is not a Tavlin of that type of Tavlin. So now Moshe is not sure. When we have a Kabbalah from Chazal, that a tavlin is not get cooked in a klisheni, does that include the tavlin of the type which is chayiv in meiser? Maybe when Chazal gave us this Kabbalah, that a tavlin is potter from, is not a problem of bishul in a klisheni, maybe that's only a tavlin that you don't eat it on its own. But something that you eat on its own, I don't know if that's in the Kabbalah of Chazal, says Rav Moshe. It says the gam came after the tavlin, the mister, the Shabbos. Iyar kishu tavlin the time levad. I don't know. The loy b'tzalim mishum and arim lechila. V'lachein says Rav Moshe. I don't know. And if Moshe doesn't know, then nobody knows. So says the guy in Moshe, like the Taz, but not time of the Taz, not because of the reason of the Taz. Elam Yishom the Yesh Dvarim Shemizvashim Klisheni, and I don't know. Aval Klisheni Mutter. Now, of course, Rabbi Moshe had to throw that in, Rabbi Isai. Why did Rabbi Moshe have to throw that in? Because if you're going to go with the Taz, so then even in a Kli Shlishi, you're going to think that it cooks. Because if you take an onion, Rabbi Isai, and you put it into a Kli Shlishi, it's going to take out the harifis. It's not going to be sharp. And I did it today, this morning, just to make sure. And it is 100% emes. When you take an onion, you put her into a Kli Shlishi, she is not so sharp anymore. So says Rabbi Moshe, if that's going to be the reason, then you're not going to be able to put an onion into a Kli Shlishi, because then you'll have a raya that it was mavashal on a Kli Shlishi. And that can't be. Says Rabbi Moshe, that's not the reason why. The reason why we don't put it into a Kli Sheni is because we don't know. I bezai in a Kli Shlishi, we know nothing is mavashal on a Kli Shlishi. So halacha l'maisa. I hope that's clear, Rabbi Isai. There's a lot of big yisaidis that came out there. Al kopanim, Rabbi Isai sekumt ois halacha l'maisa. An onion you do not put into a kli sheni on Shabbos. Don't listen to the Aruch HaShulchan. The Aruch HaShulchan says over here, the kain haminig aposhit. Is this the minig aposhit? So what should I tell you? It's a peladik maisa. You got to live. The Aruch HaShulchan lived in Navardik, and he lived maybe in Petersburg also at sometimes and whatever. So I guess he knew the minig there, but it's just hard for me to believe that in Vilna, I'm sure the minig was like the Chayadam. I'm sure that the minig today in Eretz Yisrael for sure is that you don't put onions in because everyone follows the Psak and Shabur anyways. And the Ben Ish Chai, the minig in Baghdad, right? No, Rabbi Greenhouse, tell them. The minig in Baghdad always was that nobody ever put the onions inside the klisheni and into the chamin and whatever. So Akaponim Halacha L'Maisa only in a kli shlishi. Only in a kli shlishi, Rabbi Isai. Only in a kli shlishi. Is that crystal clear before we go weiter, Rabbi Isai? That's case number one is onions and garlic. For sure, we're not going to make a Maisa Shabbos, Rabbi Slansky, but that's because we don't make a Maisa Shabbos on any klisheni. On anything that was cooked in a klisheni, we don't make a Maisa Shabbos because the whole thing is a suffix, right? The l'chayr. What are you saying, Rabbi Rosenberg? Rabbi Fischel, what are you saying? I love you all. Okay, let me get weiter, Kindle. So that's number one. Now, Rabbi say we start the most interesting time. Today is Maisris Day. Today's Maisris Day. You know, today's Maisris Day. You're getting little musagim and concepts in Maisris. You're seeing over there, Shlomi has over there his little tea that he cooks on the road just when he needs to go also. And you saw today that maybe that's takapata for Maisris. I wouldn't drink that stuff anyways, because it's probably inside there all types of dragons and who knows what. But you're getting musagim and maestros. You don't have to skip those gemaras anymore, Rabbi say. A tavlin is putter. And now your wife is going to say, hey, I know what you guys do all morning, 9:45 in the morning. You talk about cholent and coffee. That's not lishma. I know you people, right? Cholent and coffee. I could also talk about cholent and coffee, 9:45 in the morning. I also. You tell her, cholent coffee, Rabbi Freelander, Sheiches. What are you talking about? You tell her, you know, we talked about today. Do you know there's a Toisus in Nida on Daf Nunam and Aleph? And Toisus makes a chilik to vision, two types of tavlin. There's a tavlin that you actually eat, and there's a tavlin that you just use for a spice. And Toisus' sheet is that's yes chayv in maisris. And Rav Moshe uses that as a raya klap Hilchos Shabbos, that's the tavlin that we're talking about in Hilchos Shabbos. That's not the tavlin that we're talking about in Hilchos Shabbos, and that tavlin is going to be something that Yitaka, yes, might be bitchel in the klisheni. Oh, she's going to lose you, don't worry. She's going to give you your cornflakes and run away. And so now you tell her, and you think that's it. We went weiter in Maisris. We went into Meiser Perik Gimel Alocha Tesvav of the Halachos Rambam. What's it say, Meiser? You learn a little Meiser. You know, there's no games. You have to know codes are cool. In Shemayim, you think you come to Shemayim, you tell, I learned Bishul. Bishul, and I also, you know, and I learned also a little bit, you know, but Kallus talks about Kriyas HaTorah. I was listening to those here too. Kriyas HaTorah I know, and Bishul I know. Yeah, Givaldi. There's no games. In Shemayim, they ask you Meisers, and they tell you, what? If you didn't learn Meisers, how are you supposed to know stuff in Hilchos Shabbos? Right? No, see, there's no games. There are no games. There's rules. There's no games. So you're going to come up, they're going to say, what do I need to know about Hilchos Meisers? What are you talking? Right? So you say like this. They're going to tell you, Meisers, what about Yad Nechves by? What about Yad Nechves by? Meisers, Yad Nechves, what's going on? So there's a Rambam. Now, by say a little bit Yediyah in Hilchos Maasros, because in Shemayim there's no games. They ask you this for sure. They're going to ask in Shemayim. There's no question in the world, right? I don't know if it's the 15th question or the 8th question, or by Lieberfreund, you're laughing. You think this is funny? For you, this is going to be the 7th question. There's no games, right? You know what they're going to ask you like this. They're going to ask you, what does Bishul have to do with Maasros? You're going to say, Migu. Migu, they throw you to Ganem. Migu Fregnish, if you say the word Migu over there, right? They're going to say, what does Bishul have to do with Maasros? And they're going to say, I tell you, Bishul has to do like this. You're going to tell them that we know that in order to be chayiv in Maasros and Trumas, etc., so then there has to be a certain level of kfiyas. It has to be that I did maybe an asifa and a goyrin and this and that, but we know that you're not chayiv in Maaser if you're just eating it by rai. Maybe you could say those guys on the road having their tea, maybe that's called a rai. But Masha'en Kane, they're going to laugh at you. He's on the road. That's called a rai. Who cares? He's cooking it. And when you do a bishul process to the item, so then that's already koiveya for Meiser. You understand, Rabbi Isai? In other words, there's different ways that something could have a requirement of taking Meisers and Trumas. One of the ways is what? Is if you bring it into, you make a ganze silo, and if you don't know what a silo is, ask one of the out-of-towners over here, right? You make a whole matziv and dust, then you're chayiv in Meisers and Trumas and whatever. Another way is if you bevashel it. Who says that? They look a Mishnah. But who else brings this? The Rambam. Listen to a Rambam. The Rambam says, Hashem med mishi yared leuka. Uka is the word you skip when you get to these Gemaras and Shas. Athal pishi yared noitel min ha'ekel umin ha'memel umin ha'pasim v'noisen l'kayra ketanav l'tamchay l'toicha tafshel. You can eat it hot. Don't worry. Athal pishu cham, because ain't no mevashel in the klisheni. Oil is not mevashel in the klisheni. Okay, listen to this. Ve'im hayacham biyoser. Says the Halachos Rambam in Maasros Perek Gimel Halacha Tesvav. If it was boiling hot, what's boiling hot? Kidei she yichve, that it would burn you. Woo! So then it's so hot, burn the hayad. Lo yitein letoichai mipnei shu mitzpashel, because then it cooks. And so what if it cooks? So then if it cooks, then you're chayiv in Maasros. Okay? But what does it say over here in this? What does it say over here in this Rambam? You know what it says in this Rambam? In the same Rambam, it says there are things that don't cook in the klisheni. In the same exact Rambam, it says unless that klisheni is piping hot. If that klisheni is so hot that it's yad nichvis and that your hand will get scalded, so then that's yes gonna cook. What's the nafkamina if it's gonna cook? So in Hilchos Maasros, the nafkamina is that if something cooks, so then it is considered koiveya for Meiser, and you can't eat it in a Arayic fashion. It would require you to take Meister and Trumas, whatever, before eating that dish. Before I go right there, is that crystal clear, Rabbi Isai? Is that crystal clear? Clear? Crayons, yes or no? Right? Clear? Everybody knows, yeah? You guys are, Rabbi Elbaz, you're going to tell this to your wife later, yeah? She's going to say, what are you doing? Talking about cholent again, you're a Svardi. Should be talking about lachmajin and kibbeh. You tell, listen. This morning we were talking about Maasros and what's kaveya for Maasros. It was a very, 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 it's going to be very impressive. Very impressive. Your Shver asks you what you learn. You tell him we're learning the Shverste Sugyas in Hilchos Maasros right now. Don't ask. Shverste Sugyas, right? It's a place that what does it have to do with us? In Shemayim, they ask you about Maasros. Not about Maasros. Also, you have to know for Hilchos Shabbos. In Hilchos Shabbos, do I see now a Mefurish Rambam that the Rambam says I have something which cooks in a klisheni. I have something that cooks in a klisheni. Well, we were told klisheni ain't a mavashel. Okay? And this is not kalei bishul. Rabbi said we're talking about oil. It says over here shemen. Shemen is something that for sure doesn't cook in a klisheni. Shemen is the hardest bishul. It doesn't cook in a klisheni. And after begin, I found you an incredible moifis. I found you oil, which normally doesn't cook in a klisheni, and all of a sudden she cooks. Where if you're in a klisheni and it's scalding hot, then that is considered mevashel. Is that unbelievable? Are you all in shock? Rabbi Greenberg, are you okay or not? Right? Shocking. Is Rabbi say, kommt again the Chaye Adam and the Chachmas Adam, and he has a sefer and the mitzvahs of Eretz Yisrael, which he brings really the etzim idea and the binas Adam in Perek Beis in Ois Tes, but I'll read you from the Chaye Adam. If you're going in Hilchos Shabbos. If now something is Reteach Kolkach, it's so hot that it's Yad Nichves, it scalds your hand when you touch it. Nearly the Kule Alma Mevashel. So then it's Mevashel. Even the things that we said are not Mevashel and Klisheni, we are Machmir on everything we said, right? But there were still some things that we allowed you to put in Klisheni, like water, like oil, and maybe spices that weren't ground up so finely and whatever, etc. Comes again the Chayodam, and he says, water, oil, no way. In a Klisheni, you have a new problem. Now you have to worry about Yad Nichves. Yad Nichves is something that's scalding. How do I know that? So he has in the brackets here, Ayin Chiburi, Ayin my Chibur called Sharet Tzedek, Perek Beis. The Chayodim wrote a sefer called Sharet Tzedek because he was writing about, writes in the beginning, you're going to come into Eretz Yisrael. Mashiach is going to come. He didn't know that we'd be able to go to Eretz Yisrael before Mashiach. And you're gonna go and you're gonna be in the palace of the Melech, and you're not gonna know how to act inside the palace of the Melech. Rabbi said certain protocols when you're in the house of the Melech. So he wrote a whole sefer on all the Negayah Dikazachan of Zroyim and whatnot to know what to do. So over there in his Chibur, he brings down this Rambam, and he proves from this Rambam that when it comes to Maisris, the halacha is that you can have a klisheni that's boiling hot and that cooks things, even though normally klisheni is not mevashel, and that's called Yad Nichves, it's beyond Yad Soledes. So Hilchos Shabbos. Thus is the psak of the Chayodam. Who brings this down? The Mishabura brings this in three places. The most known by us is the Mishabura. So you've got Memches. That's if it's Yad Soledes. Ayin Chaye Adam. Shekosav Deicha Sheyad Nichvis. Lekule Alma Mevashol Afilu B'Klisheni. Lashon of the Mishabura. So the Mishabura is Machmer on this. Is that crystal clear before we continue? Crystal clear. Now, Baisai, should I tell you an interesting kasha? Baisai, does anybody have a kasha? I spent the last 13 minutes talking about what? Maisris. Right? Isn't that an interesting kasha? I spent the last 13 minutes talking about Maisris. Right? This is quite interesting. Maisris is a very, very important miksay in halacha, and it's also, something that most of us do skip when we get to those gemaras. It's true, right? But wouldn't you think that this idea of a klisheni being Yad Nichves shouldn't be hidden away in a Rambam Dorton in Maisris, that when you take it off the shelf, the Zroyim, and you blow, it can make a sandstorm greater than the entire, there's a Chamsin today, Fragnished, right? Don't you think somebody should have told us this Chiddush, at least in your Yeridea, right? Levi, shouldn't somebody have told us this Chiddush maybe in Hilchos Shabbos? Don't you think somebody should have told us this Chiddush somewhere else than in Maisris? It's interesting, though. Come to gain the Red Baz. And where's the Red Baz? In Maisris. Right? How did I find this Red Baz? Well, you look in the back of the Frankel Rabbams. Oh, they bring this Red Baz. And over there, says the Red Baz, he says, don't you think somebody should have mentioned this anywhere else in Shas? Don't you think on Shabbos, on Daf Memon Mebeis, where it says Klisheni and Mevashel, somebody should have said that what? That, no, Klisheni is Mevashel when it's Yad Nichves by. Don't you think somebody should have told us the secret of a Danzinger? Not everybody learned in the Kachim Yeshivas. How am I supposed to know these things about Zroyim? How am I supposed to know this? I read Klisheni Ein Mevashel, and I think Klisheni is Ein Mevashel. And I'm going to make the terrible mistake, of going and thinking that the taka oil I could always put inside my second cup. And it's not true. You can't put oil inside your second cup because maybe it's Yad Nichves by. Don't you think somebody should have told us this? Before we get to the amount of Yad Nichves by, Zayfrek the Red Baz, Zok the Helig Red Baz, he says, he has a few terutzim. One teretz he says is the Rambam's Lav Davka. Okay. The Rambam, he says, when the Rambam says it's a klisheni, so he says, what the Rambam means is, hu adin, if it's chan b'yoyser, and it's kedei yichvei, means a kli rishon. Another, a little bit doichik, right? Rabaz, Rabbi said, Rabaz. But the second teretz of the Rabaz is a much more acceptable teretz, right? How do I know it's a much more acceptable teretz? Because Rechaim Kanievsky has a wonderful sefer on Zroyim called Derech Emuna, right? It's like a Mishnah Brura on Maizah. Now he's made it accessible for every one of us to learn Zroyim. It's like Mamish and Mishnah Brura. Now there's really no excuse, right? So you just go out tomorrow and buy one. But it's over there, Rav Chaim Kanievsky brings this teretz in Perek Gimel in the 145th Sif Kotin in Perek Gimel. Over there, he brings down the second teretz of the Rabaz. The Rabaz's second teretz, the Geshmak teretz. He says you can't compare Maisris to Shabbos and to your day and to Kol HaTarkula. When we're talking about Maisris, we're trying to figure out, is it considered a chashuv dish? Is it considered like you worked over here? Verstehst? There's a kvias over here. Once there's kfiyas over here, so then that you can't say is a rai, and therefore it's no longer pata from maisris, it's chayiv and maisris. When you talk about the rest of Kol Kula, there we want to know, kipshutai, does it cook, does it not cook? When we're dealing with maisris, and I'll be Jidlach and Rav Chaim Kanievsky, afilu b'klisheni, afal gav the inyan Shabbos, fikol ha Torah, derech agav. Who is the one that just said Kol Torah? The one that knows Kol Torah. Even though when it comes to Shabbos and Kol Torah Kula, das roiv poiskim, that ain't chilik, and klisheni's never mevashel, even if it's yad toledis. Because makam minyan meiser, it was made naser roi lachila, hareze keva, and it's no longer achila sarai. And then he brings down the yesh machmirim gam b'Shabbos. That means the Chai Adam is machmir on this side even for Shabbos. But Rabbi said you should know this is a big chumrah, and this is why when you read the Bet Yosef, Maran Bet Yosef, in the Bet Yosef Rabbi Sai, he says these words. Listen to Maran. The Maran Bet Yosef, he says, "Klisheni eino mevashel." Listen to the words. The klal godalu, klisheni eino mevashel b'shum panim. The Beis Yosef says that klisheni is never mevashel, never mevashel. What's he going to do with maisris? The Torah says it's givaldik. In Kol Torah Kula it's not mevashel. But if you want to know, did you make a roy dish? It's talking not mevashel there either. But you want to know, did you do a chshivas and you did something which took it out of the realm of a not choshev a meal, and it's just a rai. So once you put it into yad toledis boy, that's not enough. But yad nichvas boy, that makes it choshev. So boy say, what do? The Mishnah Berurah says that you got to be machmer on this. You got to be machmer. Interesting. Mishnah Berurah is an interesting sefer. It's Mishnah Berurah over here. Let me read you from the Mishnah Berurah by saying. The Mishnah Berurah has a sefer called the Mishnah Berurah. On the bottom, he has a sefer called the Sharat Tziyun. Right? In this sefer Sharat Tziyun, he tells you his makor. Whenever he wants to tell you things, he tells you the makor of that thing. Interesting Mishnah Berurah. Right? That's his style. The style, he tells you the halacha upstairs, and this is my sefer. And on the bottom, whenever I want to tell you the makor, I tell you on the bottom. Over here, Mishnah Berurah is in Sivkat Memches. On top it said, Kol zman she'yad soledis by. The Mishnah Berurah says, Ayin b'chayodam shekosav de'echa de'yad soledis, hayad nichves, l'kulei ha'amim mevashel afilu b'klisheni. Very interesting, no? All the Mishnah Berurah is telling you to do is, he's giving you instructions. It's so interesting. Most people read this Mishnah Berurah and say the Mishnah Berurah is being machmer on yad nichves, right? Mishnah Berurah is telling you to be machmer on yad nichves. Right? Mishnah Berurah didn't say that. Mishnah Berurah just told you, go and read the Sefer Chai Adam. It's a wonderful Sefer, and see what he says. He says that way. He doesn't. In other words, there are other places where the Mishnah Berurah brings upstairs Chai Adam, and he brings brackets Chai Adam. Here, he doesn't even do that. Here, he just tells you, go and look in the Chai Adam. It's a very important idea that you should know about. Right? Is the Mishnah Berurah paskening this Chai Adam? I don't know. I tell you that the Maisa, I'm a simple Jew. I'm a very simple Jew. I learned with my chavrusa, Mishnah Berurah. It takes time to read. Rabbi Sai, we've been learning these 3 seifim over here for the last 3.5 weeks, Rabbi Sai. We've been learning 3 seifim for 4 weeks already. We're learning. That means that I'm up to Siv Kotin Chav Gimel in the Mishnah Berurah. That Mishnah Berurah we did 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago. I want to tell you, because I didn't know this Mishnah Berurah now, what happened to me 2 weeks ago. I'm with my chavrusa. We read the Mishnah Berurah Sivkat and Chav Gimel. Over here, the Mishnah Berurah and Sivkat and Chav Gimel, he tells me like this. He tells me you should know that if you have tea cents, I'm explaining it out loud now. If you have tea cents, which was previously cooked liquid, you can put in a klisheni. Even though the Mishnah Berurah has all its chumras in klisheni, but a previously cooked liquid, you can put inside a klisheni. Okay? I did this 2 Shabbosos in a row. Why did I do this 2 Shabbosos in a row? Because I'm a Jew. I read the Mishnah Berurah, told me to do. Now me and my chavrusa, we get the Mishnah Berurah Sivkat and Memches. I come here, I say, wait a minute. I tell my chavrusa, what? The whole world has just changed. A klisheni is not always you could put things in. Sometimes a klisheni has a din of a kli rishon. If it's yad nechves by, it has a din of a kli rishon. And you certainly can't put tea cents into a kli rishon. You're not even allowed to pour from a kli rishon onto your tea cents. So I don't believe this. For the last 2 Shabbos, I was Michal Shabbos because I went and I put tea cents. You hear this, Maisa? I just put tea cents for 2 Shabbos in a row. You burn down. I don't believe this. I have to do tshuva. For 2 Shabbos in a row, I put tea cents into a klisheni. Maybe my klisheni, at least for the first few seconds, is Yad Nichves, right? It's very hot. The first, I have an urn that goes up to 212. I mean, we didn't see yet what Yad Nichves is, but it exists, right? If you have to be warned about it, it exists. So let's say it's, the first 5 seconds in the cup, the first 10 seconds. Rabbi say every normal human being, what does he do? He takes out the cup from the urn, and then right away he pours in the cents. Because he doesn't know. Now he's going to have to change this Shabbos. He has to remember that even though klisheni is not mevashel, but you got to wait a bit because Yad Nichves by we're machmir, and same thing with water, and same thing with oil, and same thing. Okay, most other things it doesn't make a difference because we're anyways going to be machmir and klisheni because we don't know which things cook and which things don't cook. So who cares? We're machmir even on the klisheni. But what bothers me is that most of the oilam over here was nechshol. For the last 2 Shabbos, you were all nechshol. You guys hear my taina? What does it sound like from the Mishnah Berurah? It sounds like from the Rebbe that go and look in the Chayadam. Chayadam has a chumrah, and go and look in the Chayadam. If you want to accept the chumrah, it's a chumrah to Shabbos. It's got a chumrah to Maisris. And if you want to accept the chumrah, you can accept the chumrah. In my sefer, I'm not bringing it. I want you to just go and look over there. It's a nice thing to know, right? Now, Boisai, I wanted to know, so give me something more. I know the Chayadam is machmer on this. Okay, but the Chayadam was the first person. There's no Mogen Avram that tells me to be machmer on this. There's no Taz that tells me to be machmer on this. There's no Shulchan Aruch that tells me to be machmer on this. There's no Ramah that tells me to be machmer on this. There's no Prima Godim that tells me to be machmer on this. There's no Sefer. All of the Mishaburas, Chaveirim, the Iyar Rabbi, the Taisu Shabbos, everyone that's on the bottom, no one until the Chayadam was ever machmer on this. So I said, look, what should I tell you? You look in the Kitzur Svarim, and they all bring it. I'm going to go and tell you that Yad Nichves is not something that you have to be machmir on. So I decided, you know what? Let's just look in the Aruch HaShulchan. We know in Hilchos Shabbos, the Aruch HaShulchan, when it comes to when he came to tea, how violent he was, right? I couldn't find. You want to hear an unbelievable thing? I couldn't find the Aruch HaShulchan. Now, anybody, maybe you could find. I didn't press the little button lock and whatever. I actually looked inside. I'm sorry, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I looked everywhere for an Aruch HaShulchan about Yad Nichves, right? And I'm looking in Aruch HaShulchan, right? And Aruch HaShulchan, right? So what can I do? So, B'leis Breira, I had to press the little button lock. And to see, where's this Aruch HaShulchan? Aruch HaShulchan never talks about Yad Nichves. So I pressed the little button lock and a makar typed to the Oitzer Chachma that they gave it to me for free, right? I look around, I put inside Yad and I put in Nichves. Nothing comes up in Shabbos. And what? So they have over there, Aruch HaShulchan HaAsid. Aruch HaShulchan HaAsid. Over there in Zroyim, in the 98th parak of Zroyim. That means, imagine you read 98 prakim of Aruch HaShulchan. Imagine this. The Aruch HaShulchan. Did I ever tell you how the Aruch HaShulchan wrote a sefer? It wasn't like, he had a face. He had like Mamish and Oitzer Chachma over there and all the Svarim in the world over there. But Schlisselfeld, you're sitting over there with your fancy Svarim. You know what the Aruch HaShulchan was? You know how he was sitting over there? He was sitting over there in the Beis Din, in the Vardik. There were Mishigoyim that like Pashit walked in and screaming and yelling and yapping and everything. He had a Gemara and he had a Rambam. Right? And he had a pen and he had some papyrus, yeah. And the Chashogim would just sit and write on Kol HaTorah Kula, 98th parak of Aruch HaShulchan in Zroyim. So in the 98th parak of Aruch HaShulchan HaAsid in Sif Tes, he says like this. He says the Rambam Shita, he brings down the Maisris and this and that. Listen to Aruch HaShulchan. The Af Al Gav the Indian Shabbos Kli Sheni Einoi Mevashel. Game over. Afilu b'yad saledis boy. He says even yad saledis boy because the Aruch HaShulchan which he does say he wasn't into the Chumrah anyways. So he says kedemuchach b'mikol malkin linyan meiser he's machmir. So the Aruch HaShulchan doesn't bring it in Hilchos Shabbos. It's yad nichbis boy. You know why? Because it doesn't exist. He doesn't hold of it. Aruch HaShulchan is not worried about yad nichbis. So therefore, if somebody asks me, do I have to, when I'm giving a shir in Hilchos Shabbos, tell them about yad nichbis? Probably yeah. Because the Mishnah Berurah said, go and look in the Chayadam. So I would say it the way the Mishnah Berurah said it. I'm going to give a shir on Klisheni and I'm going to say like this. This is how I would give a shir. I would say, you should know that Klisheni is Ein Mavash. We are Machmir and we assume everything's Mavash. And this is because we don't know what's mevashel and what's not mevashel. And I would say, for example, even onions, even lemon, even honey, right? Not the wife, we spoke yesterday. Al kapanim, everything else you can't put inside a cliche. Okay, now I'm going to say, but you should know there's one or two things you could put in a cliche. You could put water, you could put oil in a cliche. I'm going to say tavlinin. I don't know. It's not good. I don't know. The Shlomo Zalman wasn't sure about our tavlinin. I don't know. Whatever. And then I'm going to say, water. You should know. There's a chayyadam that says that when it comes to klisheni, even water you can't put in. Ayin sham. But Avad, even the chayyadam will agree. After a certain point, after a few seconds, it's no longer yad nichves, and that's how I'll say the shir. And if I did that, I did mine. If somebody now wants to go out of the shir and he's going to be machmer on the chayyadam because it's a chumrah de Shabbos, he's a wonderful Jew, right? If somebody's going to say that part I didn't even hear, it didn't even register, okay. So what do you want from me? Mitzvah Shmuel Divrei Chachamim. I listened to the Mishabur. He told me ayin in the chayyadam. I went and I ayin in the chayyadam, and I see the chayyadam is a very big chiddush and a very big chumrah. The reason I'm being so emphatic is I know that this is not exactly the party line. The party line is in Yad Nichves, is that people say Yad Nichves and this. And then I saw, I saw chumras and chumras and chumras that in my whole life I couldn't believe. I saw over here, and some Sfarim bring this down, like Mamashi, it's a Peledic Maisa. In the Minchas Yitzchak, it's Peledic. In the Minchas Yitzchak, in Chelik Hey, in Siman Kuf Chav Zayin, his whole truth about this, he talks about it. He says, no, you did the chumrah of the Chayyadam and the Chalachos Adam. Right? And he says, Upasakain Mishnah Rabbi said, there's no Mishnah Shepasakain. There's no Mishnah the Pasakain. The Mishnah doesn't say I Pasakain. The Mishnah says Ayin in the Chayyadam. Those are the words in the Halachos of Bishul. The Mishnah said Ayin in the Chayyadam. He doesn't say in the Mishnah. And then he goes on. He says, Vitzarich Ian mi divrei habeis Yosef. He said Sarich Ian mi divrei beis Yosef. Shekasev. But that's a Sarich Ian. The beis Yosef is Sarich Ian. It's real late. I feel the matter of Sichos v'Kisheni Kenja. Kla Gadol u'Kisheni. Okay. Then he goes on and he says, so what tachlis is this chumrah of Yad Nichves? How much is the chumrah of Yad Nichves? And he goes on, he says, unbelievable chiddush over here. The Minchas Yitzchak writes these words. Im yachol lahachzik hayad eze shniyas. If you can hold your hand in it for a few seconds, lo yave bichlal nichves. What does that mean? If I can hold my hands in there for a few seconds, it's not called Yad Nichves. So I didn't know what that meant. What does it mean a few seconds? It's how long? If I can't hold it for 1 second even, Rabbi say, go and take your water out of the urn, right? Keep your finger in there. You can't really hold it in there for more than a few seconds. That means it's going to be Yad Saledis by, it's going to be Yad Nichves by for like 15 seconds, and right? It's a very long time. So I saw a sefer called the Hilchos of Shabbos, and he asked this question to the Minchas Yitzchak. And he writes like this: if you can't hold your finger in the water for 15 seconds, that's called Yad Nichves. 15 seconds. That's unbelievable chumrah. Unbelievable. In order for it to be, if I can't hold I think most of the time of my tea's life, I can't hold it in there for 15 seconds. 15 seconds to hold it in there, and it's Yad Nichves by. That's 15 seconds. What are you making a face, Nasi? Go take a cup of hot water and put your finger in there, and you'll see. Well, how hot is it? That's an iced coffee. Anti-Semitic, right? That's an iced coffee. He puts his finger in, right? Unbelievable, right? I don't know, right? And he writes in the Hilchos of Shabbos that he tried it, and he says that's 49 degrees. You know what that is? That's for sure Yad Saledis by. That's for sure Yad Saledis by. We have shittas that go up to 79 degrees is Yad Saledis by. When I was talking about Yad Nichves by, Yad Nichves by is when it's like up to 190 degrees. You put your finger in and it gets scalded. So this I looked around a little bit and I saw the Sefer Yad Yehudi. Yad Yehudi is in Yordeya in Siman Kuf Hey. It was from over 100 years ago, more already 150 years ago. And he says, "Hinei Rishon Tzrichen Lavin Gabi Yad Saledis." Ein echadim Yad Nichves. He's mechalik between Yad Saledis and Yad Nichves. V'nira chilik. Yad Saledis ein a nichva miyad me'an mayim. If you put your finger into Yad Saledis, it won't get a blister miyad. Kishemachzik zman ma unichva. Only after a while it'll get a blister. Rabbi said, if you put your finger into 49 degrees, it will not get a blister ever. It's not negaya. Right? So he says, that's what Rashi says. Nimshechas lachar midaiga. He says, "Hain tekesh noitz yad moishchay. Mashe'en ke nichva is miyad. Nichva means when you put your finger in, miyad you'll get a blister. You burn your finger. If you put your finger in, you're going to miyad get a blister." And I saw that the Shevet Alevi in Chelik Zayin and Simon Mem Beis, he says, "Ein ana b'kiyam." He says, "Mikol makam hamachmer lo yitzarich lachmer." In other words, you don't have to be machmer, but if you're going to be machmer on this, rak miyad achrei bishul b'kli rishon v'iril kishleni as chaymai gadol. The cave in the kol hikar of the chayadam is mefukvik gam hamachmer lo yitzarich yoiser. Dainu, it's Rabbi say, it's not a very long time at all, right? It's not a very long time at all. It's a very, 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 very short time, right? Very, very short time. No shaila that if you put it into a kli shlishi, the chumrah doesn't even exist. For sure, once it hits already the walls of a kli shlishi, it does not exist in the chumrah at all. Even in a kli sheni, Rabbi say, if you want to be machmir on this, it's only mamish for, I'm afraid to say numbers and times and whatever, but it's mamish a few seconds. Mamish a few seconds. Right? Once already it hits the wall, from there already, it's 5 seconds, 7 seconds. The biggest chumrah I could think of is 8 seconds or 9 seconds. That's the biggest chumrah. But not to have the chumras that you've been hearing, that's for sure not. And if you want to know, could you put in there a liquid that was already nisbashel? So then the Mishabura first is make on that. In Siv Katan Chav Gimel, he doesn't differentiate. And you could say, like I said, because he didn't worry about it at all. Or even if you want to say the Mishabura is worried about Yad Nichvis, but you could say he didn't want to be machmar on Yad Nichvis together with the Shaila of Bishul Achar Bishul B'davar Lach. So the Ma'aseh Tachlis Geret, this chumrah is very, very, very not negeya, because when it comes to making your 2 cents, you can put it in as fast as you want. When it comes to what? So what is it talking about? So it's talking about, you want to know, are you allowed to put water inside a klisheni? So see this, if you have an urn, which isn't such a boiling hot urn, no shayla in the world is mutter. If you have an urn, which is a boiling hot urn, so then I would say, if you put it into a klishlishi, mutter gam. If you want to know, probably you should wait a few seconds. If you want to get the chumrah of the chayadam was a helik yid, and chumrah of the Shabbos, so you wait 5 seconds, 6 seconds, whatever, and then, the chumrah 10 seconds, okay? And then you would even be able to put inside water or oil to your heart's desire. I see it got very late today. What happened? We didn't do anything today. About this never happened before. All right. What happened over here? We didn't do anything. We didn't get anywhere today. What happened over here? This has never happened before in the history of the shir. What happened? We didn't do anything today. What happened? What happened over here? But we didn't get through anything. I don't believe this. We didn't even get it. I was going to talk today about the crumbs on the plate and the cholent on the crumbs and the Yushalmi kugel with the pickle. I don't believe it. We didn't get to anything. You guys want to go for another hour? Well, what should we do? I don't even know what to do. We didn't get anywhere. Well, you, Rabbi Greenhouse, you're stuck in Bidud for the next 2 years. Well, you. I don't know what to do. All right. The first 2 minutes of tomorrow, we'll talk about the cholent and the crumbs and the pickle and the Yushalmi kugel, and then gotta go weiter. Shavuos is coming. All right, Bolson, what happened over here? Where's Erwin? He just ran away because we didn't do anything today, right? There you go. All right, what should I tell you? All right. Everybody said, let's make a quick sikum. The sikum is that Yad Nichvis boy is a chumrah. It's a chumrah. It's not a din, it's a chumrah. It's a chumrah, and therefore, and you don't have to be machmer on that chumrah in a klishlishi. You certainly don't have to be machmer on that chumrah in a liquid shek previously in his bashal. You don't have to be machmer on that. Any chumrah together with it, we're not going to be machmer on. The only place in the world that could possibly be negay, I guess, is because anyways, usually we're machmer on a klisheni anyways. So the only place in the world where I can think of that you're going to be machmer on is if you want to cool down your boiling hot water. So then wait 5 seconds or 10 seconds or something like that if you want to be machmer, but you're certainly not mechuyev to be machmer. What else did we learn today? We learned a lot of maasros today. We learned that in Shemayim, they're going to ask you about maasros. And one of the things they're going to ask you is, what's kaveya legabe maasros? So there you don't have to worry about Yad Nichvis Pai. Yad Nichvis Pai by maasros is a very serious thing. Another thing they're going to ask you over there is maasros. You don't have to, you learned the Gewaldige thing, you don't have to maaser tavlinim. But Tosis and Nida and Daf Nun says, but that's not the tavlina that you actually eat. That's only the tavlina that give off taste. As I bezai, onion, etc. Those things, those taka, you might guess after meiser, and therefore it's not necessarily included in our Kabbalah, and therefore such a thing you would b'chayra. Anyways, have to be machmer, says Rabbi Moshe, not put it inside a klisheni. You learned today, Aruch HaShulchan's not a mekel, a machmer. You learned the sugya azay, takukum nazay. You learned Aruch HaShulchan knew kol ha-Torah kula, Rabbi Yisai. And he wasn't worried about yad nichves. But you learned also, Rabbi Yisai, that when it comes to boirer, you got to be very careful with those filters and not to shake it up and down. It's a very common, normal thing. And then you can be over on boirer. Mitzvah Hashem. We'll continue tomorrow. Little Rosenberg girl. Say hello to the camera. Say hello, little Rosenberg girl. Hello, little Miss Fiskis, all the little Miss Fiskis over there. All right. Oh, the little spider girl. Oh, look at that. That's nice. Oh, look at that, Rafal Wolf. Look at that background. And the nice background in the insane asylum over there. Oh, that's so nice. It's so nice that they let you out for some time. That's so nice. They didn't let you out, but they let you go on Zoom. That's wonderful. Rabbi Hirschhoff. Look at all these meidlachs, perfect shidduchim. You got the Spira girl over here. You got the Fiskis meidl. Look at this. What could be better? All right. Look at this. Find the shidduch. Oh, the little Rosenberger girl over there. You also, Ben. We can find you a shidduch too. Oh, very nice. I'm so happy about this, right? Rabbi Kranz, you have a cousin watching also. He's right over there. You see your cousin? He just left him there. Rabbi Levin, right? You know that. You don't think I know what's going on over here. Look, the little Rashkin girl's here. Oh, how nice. Oh, very nice. Have a Danziger. Okay. Watch him. You have to know Maestris. You thought that you were running away from them. Yeah?
Yaakov, say hi, Rabbi.
Chuck, I'll see you later.
Yaakov, look at all these shidduchim.
Yaakov, say hi.
Rabbi, who do I give